this is Brew Crime, a true crime and craft beer podcast. I've got Beck with me here, and I'm Mike. Our show will be story, true crime story, and pair it with a beer. So our first story is...
Gilles de Rais from France. I'm not sure how much you want me to give away before we get started.
Not too much.
Yeah.
So because this story takes place in France, I've paired it up with Monts. It's a beer made in France. It's from Brasserie de Saint-Sylvestre, I think's the name. What do you think? Is that right? You've got the French translations down better than me.
Brasserie de Saint-Sylvestre. I'm not sure. My French is only Fringlish.
Nice. All right, so this the Monts beer, a wonderful return to nature with its flavor of yesteryear. This is a beer that was drawn from the wooden metal circled barrels to fill so many mugs in our Flanders bars. Its bitterness comes from our hop fields scattered throughout the region, brewed by infusion. It is an old-fashioned rising beer made with strong and hearty Flemish hops, fermented using top yeasts like barrels brewed of yore and clamped like Bonchard's barrels. That's an awful translation from French. So the beer is actually a bière de garde, which is a traditional classification for farmhouse ales of France and their sometimes untraditional New World counterparts. Bière de garde is today generally a warm fermented strong pale ale, sometimes blonde. All right, so let's pour this beer. You can go first if you want. Grab a glass. It's got a really nice golden color and just slightly off-white head.
I'm not sure what to say about it. It's good. I definitely like it.
Yeah, the aroma's not very strong, really. It's there's kind of a grainy, some like old hop smell.
I don't have any of the proper words that you have. I just know if I like it or if I don't.
Yeah, no, it's
fairly light.
It's light. It's
definitely refreshing.
It's grainy, refreshing. It's got kind of that farmhouse yeast style. A little bit of citrus. I'm not sure how fresh it is. It's best before 4/4/2019, so it's still not too old. It's 8.5% alcohol, so regardless, it'll last for a long time. That's not bad. All right, now that we've had the beer, let's get into the story.
Okay, so today I'm going to take us back to France. Quick fact, the average person in France consumes 10.9 liters of pure alcohol per year. Compare that to 8.2 liters in the UK and only 6.3 liters in the US. I'm not sure if that's because they drink less or is it because the beer is incredibly weak. And of course I had to know what Canada's was, and it is 10 liters per year. So it's nice to know that we're near the top of alcohol consumption worldwide.
It's good to hear, yeah.
Yeah. It's good. You feel proud knowing that we're doing our best to contribute to that as well.
Definitely.
Yeah. Okay, so I'm going to take us back to 15th century France to meet an interesting man, a nobleman, war hero, comrade in arms to Joan of Arc, and a serial killer, possibly the first serial killer. There was a lot of conflicting information about whether he was born in 1404 or 1405. His father was Gilles de Rais and mother Marie de Crown.
Better than I can say it.
Yeah. Their marriage was arranged by Marie's father, Jean de Crown, who was the same age as Guy. So, ew. That's disgusting. At the tragically young age of 10, he lost both of his parents. His father was gored by a wild boar while hunting. And it's quite possible that Guy was there to witness this, and wasn't quick. And his mother died the same year, causes unknown. I'm assuming skydiving accident, but...
Totally, yeah.
Yeah, I could be wrong.
A lot of flying back then.
Yeah, definitely. Against their father's wishes, Guy and his brother René were then raised by their grandfather, Jean de Crown, because when you're the second richest man in France... what you want is more important than the law. And he passed this lesson on to Guy with devastating effect, as we will later find out. When Guy was 13, his weirdo grandfather continued scheming and trying to arrange marriages for him. He tried to set up a marriage for Guy to a wealthy heiress from Normandy named Jean Penel. This would have made grandfather Cupid, that's what I'm calling him the rest of the time,
Nice.
one of the richest and most powerful men in Europe. The parliament in Paris said no and told him he had to wait at least until she was of age because she was only 4.
Jesus Christ.
Yeah.
That's disgusting.
Yeah. When Guy was 14, he was sent out to squire for those who were still fighting in the 100 Years' War, which I can't even imagine because when I was 14, I was listening to the Dangerous Minds soundtrack and wishing that high school would end.
Yeah, for sure. It felt like the 100 Years' War.
Yeah. Grandfather Cupid was too impatient to wait for Jean Benel to come of age, so when Guy was 16, he ordered him to kidnap his own cousin, Catherine de Thore. She was the heir to a large amount of land that neighbored the de Rais land. Several rescue attempts were made, but failed, resulting in more prisoners in Grandfather Cupid's dungeon. Catherine was not freed until after her father died, and at this time the men in the dungeon were released, and Catherine had to marry Guy, which made Guy even wealthier. 9 years later, they had a daughter named Marie. While all of this was going on, Guy was also fighting in the 100 Years' War. He was a brave and fearless fighter, and he soon ingratiated himself to the Dauphin. The Dauphin is the title used in France for their heir apparent. In this case, it was Charles VII. Charles VI was still technically the king, but since he was known as the Mad King, Charles VII was the one who actually ruled the country.
Okay, so the dolphin.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I was like, oh, the dolphin. I wonder, like, where that came from.
Yeah.
And I found a website that said that it's French for dolphin, and it was because it was a nickname of the original Dauphin, because his coat of arms had a dolphin on it, and it looked like the happiest dancing fish.
Nice.
It didn't even look like a dolphin. Anyway, so I was looking up why Charles VI was called the Mad King, and one of the early signs that Charles VI was mad presented itself while he was on a hunting trip in 1392 when he was only 23. He went crazy and killed several of the knights that were his friends hunting with him with no explanation at all. And later in life, he regularly hid in cupboards because he believed he was made out of glass, and if anyone touched him, he would die. At the time, he was just called the Mad King, but now we know that he probably had schizophrenia.
Who knew mental health was a big issue back then, right?
Yeah.
No help for you then.
You just need a good bleeding.
Exactly.
Bring in the leeches. In 1429, Guy was appointed to France's highest military position, Marshal of France. And that same year, Joan of Arc arrived and announced to the king that God had sent her to bring him the crown and to put an end to the 100 Years' War. Having nothing to lose at this point, he assigned Guy as the military advisor for Joan of Arc and provided them 10,000 men to go to the siege of Orleans. And they drove the English from the city and delivered it to Charles. Joan then persuaded Charles to send an army towards Reims. I probably said that wrong because that sounded too English, but the traditional coronation site of the French monarch. They were victorious, and Charles was finally able to be crowned king.
If you don't know the name, just say it as Canadian as you can.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Reims.
Terrible.
Reims, eh? Guy was at the peak of his success, and he could not be bested on the battlefield, but was easily beaten in court. Not the court of law, the court of the king. The politics of the court were beyond him, and in 1431, when the English were trying to ransom Joan back to the French, Guy was powerless to save her, and she was doomed to be burned at the stake. So at this point, his military career began to wind down, and he spent more time at his estate, which was, by this point, among the richest in western France. I couldn't believe this research part. He spent recklessly on decorations, servants, and production of a theatrical spectacle called Le Mystère du Siege d'Orléans. And the costumes were worn once and then remade for every performance.
That's ridiculous.
So
I love it.
wear them, put on the play once, throw them out, make new ones. And all of the food and drink were supplied by him, like at his own cost, every performance. Because they're totally disposable.
Yeah, exactly. Well, all stores want you to think that.
Yeah. So this, obviously, mysteriously, left him nearly bankrupt. When he started selling family land to finance his extravagant lifestyle, it sparked a bitter fight with other members of his family, but especially with Grandfather Cupid, who was only ever interested in gaining more money and more land. So in retaliation, when he died, he left his sword and armor to Guy's younger brother, which at the time was a symbol that he felt René was the proper heir to his fortune.
Yeah.
So it was around this time that Guy became increasingly concerned with religion and his own salvation. And in 1433, he financed the construction of a chapel for the bliss of his soul, which he called the Chapel of the Holy Innocents. And he officiated in robes that he designed himself. Fancy.
Did he make new ones every time?
Yeah. That wasn't specified, but I feel like it's likely.
We'll just say yes.
Yeah, okay.
When in doubt, make it up.
Yeah, history doesn't matter. Just rewrite it. So the chapel had its own boys' choir, which was selected by Guy, which is sketch. He also, during this time, while he's becoming more and more interested in religion and saving his soul, he also started investigating the occult, and as a way to salvage his rapidly collapsing finances, he employed a large number of alchemists and sorcerers, because who doesn't want to make their own gold?
Oh, of course, yeah.
Right.
Sign me up.
Yeah. Financial advisor, no. Someone who can make gold, obviously.
Yeah, totally.
Because religion's a lot more flexible if you're already rich and powerful.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
Especially when you're running it and building it.
Yeah, right? That's what we should do. And then just be tax exempt, too.
That would be nice.
Yeah. Okay. In June 1435, Guy's family members appealed to the Pope to disavow the Chapel of the Holy Innocents, but he refused, so they went to the king. On July 2nd, 1435, a royal edict was proclaimed denouncing Guy as a spendthrift and forbidding him from selling any further property. So no subject of Charles VII was allowed to enter into any sort of contract, and those in command of the castles that he owned were forbidden from selling them or profiting from their sale in any way. So he had to pay off his creditors, who obviously immediately came after him since he was being flushed down the John really quickly. He had to pay them off with manuscripts and books and clothes and basically everything he had. And he had to leave town because he couldn't make any business deals with anyone. So he had no way of making money. So he left and went to his family estate in Brittany because the duchy, I don't know how to say that.
As horribly Canadian as you can.
No.
Duchy.
Yeah, duchy.
Duchy. Hey.
Yeah. Anyway, the guy in charge there refused to enforce the ban on doing business with Guy for some reason that I couldn't find. Anyway.
Probably money.
So children had begun to go missing around Guy's castles, but because it was quite common for young boys to be taken away from their family, not taken away, but their parents would send them to the local nobles to live as servants or pages, and it wasn't uncommon for them to never come back.
Yeah.
A lot of the parents didn't even know that their children had become victims. So it was widely unreported. But in other areas, his murderous tendencies were more of an open secret because the children he was killing were of low status and their parents felt like they had no power to say something against a nobleman because, you know, if they weren't believed, then they would be punished instead.
Yeah. Sounds like every serial killer case.
Yeah. In his trial, it was revealed that witnesses had actually seen his servants disposing of bodies of dozens of children in 1437, but because the families were too afraid to complain or say anything, he wasn't actually arrested for 3 more years after that happened. And he wasn't arrested because of the murders. He was actually arrested because he kidnapped a priest. Because why wouldn't you?
Yeah, exactly.
So this priest that he kidnapped was actually the brother of the treasurer of Bretagne. This is the only place he's allowed to live right now, and he's screwing it up. So more solid decisions on his part. So he hoped to compel him to forgive the debts that he owed. I owe you money, so I'm going to kidnap your family members. So now I don't owe you money?
Yeah, exactly. The ransom is what I owe you?
Yeah. Even Steven, maybe? So anyway, for all his past grievances and all the spendthrift, whatever, Charles VII was fine to just let it go because of all the things he'd done for the country, but then kidnapping a priest was apparently one step too far because that affected the church, and that was, beyond even the king's jurisdiction.
Yeah, it was church first, then government.
Yeah, yuck.
Yeah, exactly. It might be going there again, though, sadly.
Oh, God. Yeah, so the Bishop of Nantes was sent to investigate Guise and soon uncovered the murders and the occult activity. Guise was tried in ecclesiastical and civil court. Ecclesiastical.
That would be religious court, wouldn't it?
Yeah, church court. For offenses including heresy, sodomy, and the murder of more than 100 children.
Holy shit.
Yeah.
It's just a couple.
Yeah. And some of the witness accounts were so revolting that they were permanently stricken from record and from history. And I read that and I was wondering, how bad were they really? By today's standards?
Yeah, exactly.
I wonder if it's crap you can see on TV now. You know what I mean?
Because
you hear just
he
about
was killing
horrible
kids,
things.
so
yeah,
maybe not, but yeah, it's probably nothing compared to some of the shit that happens today.
Yeah.
Or even happened, say, World War II.
Yeah.
Some of the worst things that have ever happened on Earth happened at that time.
Exactly. And it's not like I want to know. I don't want to know, but I feel like they had different standards.
Yes. It was, against the church, so it was terrible. It was heresy.
Yeah. So I did find an actual recorded account, and it was the account of Poitou, who was Guy's body servant. I'm just going to read it. It's pretty horrible, but
sounds good.
I'm going to do it anyway. Okay. Poitou testified that Guy stripped the child naked and hung him from ropes from a hook to prevent him from crying out. Then masturbated upon the child's belly or thighs. He would touch the child's genitals and buttocks. Taking the victim down, Guy comforted the child and assured him that he only wanted to play. Barf.
Yeah.
Guy then either killed the child himself or had the child killed by his cousin, Poitou, or another body servant called Henri. The victims were killed by decapitation, cutting their throats, dismemberment, or breaking their necks. A short, thick, double-edged sword called a brocmard was kept on hand for the murders. Poitou also testified that Guy sometimes abused the victims before wounding them, and at other times after the victim had been slashed in the throat or decapitated. According to Poitou, Guy took, this is a quote, more pleasure in debauching himself in this manner than in the natural orifice.
It's quite the quote.
Oh my god.
Ugh.
So the other 3 men mentioned are Guy's cousin and Henri, another body servant. They were also on trial for this and gave similar accounts of what happened, but they were eerily similar, when people give the exact same account of a story. It's almost rehearsed. Yeah. So that's how similar all of their accounts of what happened were. So initially Guy refused to enter a plea, but under the threat of torture and excommunication, he confessed to the charges and described ritualistically torturing dozens of children, provided by his servants for over nearly a decade. He refused to confess to demon summoning, but since there were so many witnesses, he was also convicted of this. He was remorseful and calm in the face of the execution. Because of this, he was sentenced to death by hanging, and then his body was to be burnt. The punishment was carried out in Nantes on October 26, 1440, and the Bishop of Nantes had Guy's body removed from the fire and provided a Christian burial. So I was trying to look into why he would get a Christian burial.
He doesn't sound like he deserves it at all.
Yeah, like if he's been convicted of heresy, I would say that's pretty...
On top of all the actual terrible things he actually did.
Yeah, but I mean as far as the church is concerned. Yeah. But it was because he was so remorseful and calm and was just going to face the execution, but didn't want to be excommunicated, this bishop decided to take mercy on his soul, so he wasn't burned. But the other three, the poor ones, they were.
Oh,
they didn't get a Christian burial, because that's fair.
It's like a sociopath. It's just no response because you just don't give a shit.
So there was heresy, alchemy, demon summoning, murder, torture, and cannibalism, and a lot more offenses, according to witness account. And it was so much that it seems like it was made up, and maybe it was, because those that judged the case were actually pro-English French people.
Yep.
And the church had a grudge to bear, obviously, because he kidnapped one of the priests. Not to mention that the prosecutor, the Duke of Brittany, after he was convicted, he received all of the titles to all the land that Guy still owned, and all his property went to the guy that prosecuted him. Luckily for Guy, which sounds like a weird thing to say after all the horrible things I've said to him, French law allows an appeal even in cases of capital punishment. A unique arbitration court of lawyers, writers, historians, and politicians was actually appointed in 1992 to re-examine the evidence and decide whether there was sufficient evidence to show whether he may have been framed. And based on the evidence that they saw, which was basically nothing, because the evidence against him was strictly witnesses saying, oh, I saw him do this, and I heard he did that, but a lot of those, including the three guys that were all convicted alongside of him, they were all tortured before giving their account. So in 1992, they had this retrial, and he was declared innocent.
Oh shit.
But it's it's really underreported outside of France.
Yeah, for sure.
So all of the English websites that I found were no, he's totally guilty, he totally did it. And then all the French ones were he was innocent, what a tragic story, and it just really showed that history is written by the winner.
Oh, for sure, yeah.
You know what I mean? I don't know what to believe. I mean, it was in the 1400s. The hell do I know?
Yeah, exactly.
But there was just so much, conflicting information and just really weird stuff, really weird facts. There was some more interesting posthumous facts that I have here. So Guy's composure brought him acclaim as a model of Christian penitence, and a 3-day fast was observed directly after his death in honor of him, and a disturbing tradition emerged in which parents around the Nantes area commemorated the anniversary of his execution by whipping their children.
Wow.
And this was apparently to show the gravity of sin and the importance of repentance. And this went on for over a century.
That's fucked.
Guess what day it is, kids?
Get ready.
Yep. Time for a whooping. And several years after his death, his daughter Marie had a stone memorial erected at the site of his execution. And over the years, the structure came to be regarded as a holy altar protected by Saint Anne. This is so weird. She's the patron saint of unmarried women, housewives, women in labor, women who want to be pregnant, grandmothers, educators, teachers, horseback riders, cabinet makers, and miners. I don't know how they're related.
Especially the miners. I don't know.
Yeah. And she's Jesus' grandmother.
Oh, okay.
So generations of pregnant women would flock to this altar to pray for an abundance of breast milk.
Wow.
That was just so much weird. Like this guy who's accused and executed for horrible crimes against children, and these future mothers are going to pray to an altar erected on his execution site for more breast milk.
Yeah, that's fucked up. That's so weird.
It was a lot of weird. I was surprised that I'd never really heard about him before.
I had never heard of him until you mentioned him, and I did a little bit of research, and not once did I hear that he could have been framed.
Oh, really?
Oh, yeah. No, it was always just, he did this.
Yeah. Guilty. Yeah. I found it was always, at the end of what I was reading, a couple of the articles mentioned that his guilt was brought into question, so then I just specifically looked for Gilles de Rais, innocent. Yeah. And there's like websites, people fighting to prove his innocence, and it's like, they aren't that old. Like the one I saw was only from 2015.
No way.
And yeah, I don't know how much it really matters. Is it really? Maybe that's a naive thing to say.
Maybe there's still some of his descendants out there that would like his name cleared. Who knows? But
yeah.
I mean, it's so long ago that does it affect anything? Not really.
Yeah.
And luckily, church and state have been separated in most places, so that's not going to be a problem anymore.
Yeah.
All right.
So that was Gilles de Rais.
That's a good story.
Big weirdo.
Or was it?
But not in a good way. Yeah.
All right. My story, I just actually got this idea 2 days ago. I'm a metalhead on top of a bunch of other music, and the metal world was shocked and saddened on June 22nd, 2018, because Vinnie Paul Abbott, mostly known as Vinnie Paul, passed away. It's come out now that sounds like he died in his sleep of a heart attack at 55 years old, which is really, really young.
Seems so young, yeah.
I mean, who knows? It isn't even, they haven't done an autopsy or anything yet, so who knows what it really was, if it was that. Mm-hmm. But, I mean, rock stars party hard and can be hard on the body, so it's probably what it was. He was best known for his band Pantera, then Damageplan, and Hell Yeah. But this news inspired me to talk about the first tragedy to hit the Abbott family. It was the murder of Dimebag Darrell during a concert on December 8th, 2004. To kind of pair this story, I've grabbed a really strong beer, kind of a really aggressive beer. It's the Urus Arctos Russian Imperial Stout from R&B Brewing out of Vancouver. So this beer, they say, we wanted to produce a full-flavored Russian Imperial Stout with complexity and dark malt character that was well-balanced. The beer was produced using a double mash technique. Complexity of dark flavors was enhanced by a 12-hour boil time and 2 more months of conditioning time. We're extremely happy with how this beer tastes right now, and it will continue to develop with aging in this bottle. And this is actually one of the 2016 vintage, so it's now 2018. So it's been around for quite a while. Beer is black as night. You can't see through it at all. It's got a nice roasted malt character in there.
God, that smells good.
Maybe a bit of anise. Tons of chocolate up front with some roasted malts and maybe a bit of burnt coffee. It's sweet, but it's kind of balanced out by the roastiness, and it's not very bitter, which is surprising for a beer this strong. I think it's 10.4% alcohol. I could be wrong.
Nope, that's bang on, yep.
And then it's got an IBU of 85. It's the International Bitterness Unit. It's not used as much anymore, but anywhere near 100 IBU meant it was really, really bitter. It's how much hops you use. So being at 85... if this was an IPA, it would punch you in the face with bitterness. And the fact that it's not all that bitter, really, is pretty impressive. But that could be part of the 2 years of aging.
Yeah. So I know, like, nothing about beer. Mike's the master here.
You
I know what I like,
beer.
I know what I don't like. But so I have the bottle, and I'm looking at it, and Mike's tasting the beer and saying what it tastes like to him, and he's basically listed everything on the bottle, in spite of having not read the bottle, which is impressive to me, but maybe not to beer snobs.
Oh, I have been blogging on beer for 6 years and podcasting about beer as well for about 3 years, so I do know beer a little bit. But yeah, I really enjoy this. Haven't had it in a while, and R&B Brewing They had a bit of a lull for a while there, but they were bought out by House Sound Brewing in Squamish, and since then the beer has really picked up steam and it's tasting really good.
Mm-hmm. It says how did you pronounce it? The Ursus octos?
Something like that. I just made it up.
Yeah.
I don't know how to pronounce it.
It's the Latin name for the Eurasian brown bear found throughout the vast wilderness of western Russia.
Ooh, so just another version of the grizzly bear, but not the grizzly bear.
Fierce creature.
Definitely. A little stronger than the last beer.
Yeah. Yep.
I mean, the alcohol content's
good,
not
though.
that different, but the flavor is way more intense with this beer.
Oh, for sure.
And this story happened for sure. There's no doubt in the mind of anyone. Dimebag Darrell and Vinny are best known for the band Pantera that they formed in 1981. Their releases Cowboy from Hell, Vulgar Display of Power, Far Beyond Driven rocketed the band to their success between 1990 and 94. They were around for a lot longer, but that was when they were the biggest, and that's when I was a big fan of them. Here's a little taste of Pantera from their Far Beyond Driven album. This is 5 Minutes Alone.
What a tease.
You can only use so much, right?
Yeah.
Trouble started with the band in the mid-90s. Their singer that they had brought on, Phil Anselmo, had a slight problem with drugs. And by slight, I mean a huge problem with drugs. He was a junkie, and it was causing a lot of problems for the band. They were on and off all the way up until about 2001, and they had a hiatus. And Phil went off and started some other bands. Things were going well for him, and the band just got sick of waiting, so they broke up in 2003. Before they broke up, I actually attended the last show in Vancouver the band performed. I forget what year it was. It was in high school. They played with Slayer. It was a really good show. I actually went to see Slayer for the most part, but Pantera was amazing live. They were actually better than Slayer that night. A year later, after they broke up in 2003, the two brothers formed the band Damageplan. So it's another metal band. They were quite popular for their very, very short time. Their debut album sold 44,000 copies in the first week. That's pretty good sales numbers, I would say, especially in metal.
Yeah.
Because it's not pop music where it sells millions and millions.
Mm-hmm.
Damageplan was on tour in 2004 for their Devastation Across the Nation tour. This was their debut tour for that album, and it was going really well. But on December 8th, they played a show at El Rosa Villa nightclub in Columbus, Ohio, to a club of 250, so a fairly small crowd, considering Pantera used to play at coliseums and big hockey arenas and stuff.
Yeah.
But, you know, a new band, even though they know two of the members from another band, it doesn't mean they're going to be huge. I've seen that many times.
Yeah, you got to start somewhere.
Yeah, exactly. So the night had 4 opener acts. There was 2 local bands from Columbus, Volume Dealer and 12 Gauge, and then 2 well-known metal bands, Shadowfall and The Haunted. They played their sets, no issues, but then Damageplan started their set. They were a minute into the set when a 25-year-old former Marine named Nathan Gale stormed onto the stage.
Like you do.
Yeah, exactly. So he stormed the stage and went right for Dimebag. And he shot him 5 times in the head with a 9mm handgun.
What the fuck?
It was straight targeted. He was looking for him. At first, the fans just thought it was part of the show, part of the act.
Yeah.
But it was obvious pretty quickly that it wasn't, because people were screaming for help. Over the 5-minute ordeal on stage, he shot 15 bullets.
He would have had to reload, or he had more than one gun?
Oh yeah, reload. No one gun. He reloaded for sure. So Gale killed 3 people and wounded 7 during this attack. There was Jeff Mayhem Thompson. He was the band's head of security, and he was one of the ones that rushed the stage as soon as he tried to cause problems, and he tried to get Gale, but Gale shot him. Mm-hmm. There was Aaron Hulk, and he was one of the employees at the El Rosa Villa, the nightclub. And then just one of the audience members, Nathan Bray, got shot just for being at a concert, which is just nuts. Now, police don't usually respond that fast, but in this case, the police were called at 10:15 p.m., and they were there in 3 minutes, which is insane.
Yeah, that's incredibly fast. Like
Yeah.
they were outside listening or something.
Well, I think it...
No.
I don't know, but I think it was like downtown, so it's probably close to a police station. There's probably a lot of police in the area because there's a lot of people in the area. So that kind of helped. But 7 police entered through the front door of the venue, and one entered through the back door. His name was James Niggemeyer. So Nathan Gale had a hostage in a headlock with a gun to their head. People were running out of the nightclub trying to get away. Luckily, Gale saw the cops coming in the front door and didn't see what was going on behind him. So James Niggemeyer was able to approach Gale from behind, and he shot Gale in the head with a 12-gauge shotgun that he had taken out of his cruiser.
Yeah.
He wanted more than just his handgun to deal with this.
Especially going in alone.
Yeah, exactly. So the band's sound engineer, Aaron Barnes, stated that Gale had been looking for Vinnie Paul as well and couldn't find him. Vinnie had fled when this all happened. So he was looking to kill both brothers and probably more people.
I'm assuming you're going to tell me why.
Yeah.
Okay, great.
Gale had shot 15 bullets, I think I said, but he actually had 35 rounds left with him. So we can only guess what he actually planned to do when he stormed the place.
Yeah.
But we'll never know because he was killed by the cop.
Right.
And I'm glad he did because it could have been a lot worse. So the scary part here is that this is not the first time Gale had problems with the band. This is just the last one. At their show in Cincinnati, they got into an altercation with him on stage again, where he did $5,000 worth of damage to their equipment.
How does he get into the second show?
He was removed by security from that show. It actually sounds like he didn't even have a ticket to this show where he murdered Dimebag. He actually jumped a fence and ran in.
Okay.
So he ran past security.
Right.
So yeah, it was planned. Like this was not a spur of the moment thing.
Yeah,
but it never
definitely.
is when you've got like 40 bullets or whatever.
Well, I mean, it's America, so.
Yeah. Now we'll talk about some of the exactly. Talk about some of the rumors. It was thought that he might have killed Dimebag and looked to kill Vinnie because of the breakup of Pantera. Or maybe because the fight between Anselmo, the vocalist, and the two brothers. So that is the one thing, although the cops rule it out. But, I mean, when you're dealing with people that are out of their mind, who knows, really?
Yeah, there's not a lot of logic to be applied.
Yeah, exactly. Gale also claimed to whoever would listen to him that Dimebag stole a song from him. So, who knows?
Yeah.
I mean, it's a bullshit excuse to kill someone, but that was, in his mind, he had something that he wrote stolen from him. So let's talk about Nathan Gale a little bit. Like, this guy was a sick guy.
Yeah.
His mother, Mary Clark, stated he was discharged from the military after his diagnosis of paranoid schizophrenia.
Theme. It's a
Yes,
theme.
exactly. His mother had bought him the 9mm gun before the diagnosis, before he was discharged.
Oh my god, I was like, what? And
Yeah.
then you said before the diagnosis,
No, I mean,
and I was like, okay.
It sounds like...
Still a weird gift, but maybe.
Not in the States it isn't.
No,
I mean,
yeah.
everyone has a gun down there, right? They've got multiple guns. It's
Happy
only...
10th birthday, little Jimmy.
Yeah, well, at least he
Here's
was
the
not
gun.
that. He was in his 20s.
I'm
Some quotes from her. I'll never, never be able to live down that part, referring to buying him the gun. But who would have known that
man.
this guy was going to snap, right?
Yeah,
I mean...
that's a lot of weight to carry.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, man.
And then speaking on Officer Niggemeyer, I give that man credit. You'll never know how many lives he saved.
Yeah.
That can't be easy to say as the mother of the person that was killed.
Yeah.
But, that's
Horrible.
it's pretty horrible.
Yeah.
His mom stated that Gale was obsessed with the band Pantera. So it kind of ties in. You can see if you're obsessed and you have a horrible issue like paranoid schizophrenia, it could bend your mind into thinking of doing something terrible like this.
Yeah.
Not saying it's right, and I don't agree with it, but, it's...
Yeah, obviously.
This guy's not all right.
I'm surprised I've never, I'm not super into metal, but
Yeah.
I'm still surprised that I haven't heard about it.
He heard a lot about this in the early 2000s,
Yeah.
but unless you're into metal, you're not going to keep hearing about it. It's just another
Blip.
gun
Yeah.
shooting in the States, right?
Yeah.
Gale, he had a troubled childhood. He had a big drug problem in high school, but so many kids do, and they don't end up shooting up a concert or whatever.
Yeah.
So Gale complained to his friends and family that the band stole lyrics. He complained the band was trying to steal his identity.
Yeah.
You can tell there was something going on there.
Yeah.
He was way too interested in this band.
Was there any, overlap? Like, had he ever met them before? How they could have stole these lyrics? Or it was just,
Not that I can tell.
mental?
I think he was just one of those super fans that goes too far.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of those out there.
Yeah.
So, like, when he was sent back from the military, they sent him home with treatment for his schizophrenia.
Wow.
But his mom stated that she's not really sure if he actually took those pills or not. She thought he had been, but it sounds like there's lots of reason to believe he didn't take any of them.
Yeah. So I'm assuming he was living on his own then?
Yes.
It doesn't say? Okay.
As far as they could tell, yes, he was. So Gale had a few jobs after he left the army. One of the ones that I was reading about was he worked at a Minute Lube. And when he got the job, he actually informed his boss that he had paranoid schizophrenia. And the boss still hired him, no problem. But every once in a while, the boss would ask him if he was taking his pills. Because, something seemed a little off about him. And, I mean, all you can do is ask, really.
Yeah.
So I guess paranoid schizophrenia is characterized by delusions and hallucinations, which tie in completely with someone thinking that someone's stealing their songs, like, trying to steal their identity. It all makes sense to me. For someone who's delusional and paranoid.
Think they're made out of glass.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So we will never really know the true motivation. They don't get to try him because he was killed. Like, mental health issues are probably worse in a lot of ways than physical issues because you can't see it.
Yeah.
You break a leg, you can see it. If it's all up in your mind, you can't tell. And it's important to remember that with mental health, once you're diagnosed, you gotta stick with it.
Yeah.
It's not enough to take some pills for a little while and then just quit.
Yeah. There's
it's lifelong.
I feel better today. I'm not,
yeah.
That's not an option.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's like you start to feel better, so you think you're cured and you stop and you relapse, and sometimes you hurt yourself, sometimes you kill other people, sometimes maybe you just disappear for a while. So I guess just to kind of close it out here, it's important to take care of your mind, just like it's important to take care of your body. So you may go to the gym or whatever, but make sure you take care of your head too. Otherwise, you might end up storming a concert and killing a bunch of people.
Yeah.
That's my story. Kind of sad, a fairly young guy just playing music that he loves gets killed on stage. So, hopefully you enjoyed this show. Thanks for listening. You can find us on brewcrime.com. No social media yet. That'll probably come. Thanks for listening.
Good night.
Brew Crime's intro was created using Creative Commons Attribution Licensed Audio from purple-planet.com, soundbible.com, and freesoundeffects.com. This has been a production of pacificbeerchat.com.